Hello, and welcome to Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey. Thank you for joining us tonight. I have a special guest with us by the name of CherylAnn Haley, and she will be sharing her story about her mother, Sandy. I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us again. Please know that everything on this show is knowledge that we have experienced, so we are sharing it with the community. So in hopes it may help you with your journey as you care for your loved one. So please welcome our guest, CherylAnn. Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am originally from Massachusetts. My mom moved down here just after I left for college, and it took me a little bit of time, but I followed her down here. We made our way to Port Charlotte, Florida, and then about 10 years ago, I moved up to Tampa by myself, and she stayed in Port Charlotte where she lived with her husband.
Okay, awesome. Florida is the place to be.
Yeah.
It's hot, but it's the place to be. So, I understand your mother's name is Sandy.
Mhm.
So, if you want to share with us the type of dementia she has, and when did you find out, and your reactions, please go ahead and do so.
All right. My mom has vascular dementia.
Mhm.
Um, And in 2016, I started to notice there were some things that just weren't really adding up with her. By then, I had already moved to Tampa. So sometimes we were supposed to be doing something or being somewhere, and she wouldn't be there. Sometimes she would just show up at my house in Tampa, and wouldn't know. Um, One time, I remember I went home for Christmas Eve dinner,
Mhm.
and she wasn't home. And so um, she was at church, I guess. I opened the refrigerator for Christmas Eve dinner and there wasn't anything there. And so thank goodness we went to a Chinese restaurant and got that in. But that was really one of the most significant markers in my time that there's something really wasn't wrong. And I remember just after that time period, sitting her down and having a conversation with her and asking her if she was having an affair, because there were times and places that she couldn't account for. And I
Mhm.
couldn't figure out like what it would be. My mom was a realtor. She was award winning Century 21 realtor. So lots of houses, interacted very well.
Mhm.
So for her to just have these missing gaps of time, I just didn't understand what was happening.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
it's good that you were able to see some of the things that cause question. So once you sat down with her and after this discussion that you had, how did you find out what prompted you to did you take her to the doctor? Did she go on her own? How did you find out she had dementia?
It went on like that for maybe 2 or 3 years, and I had medical power of attorney. Like we had already put that in place years before just to be safe. Probably when she had power of attorney over my grandmother, she probably made that in place for me. So I tried to use my power of attorney, not really understanding what that meant, to get into her doctor's office, and the doctor would not see me. And it took probably 2.5 years for me to get to an appointment with my mother. And so we sat in the office and I had bags of medication. And the doctor said, "Well, no, I know your mom takes this medication." And I said, "She's not taking this medication. Look at how many bottles I have." And she said, "Well, she gets it sent to her every 30 days or every 90 days." And I
Mhm.
said, "But look at how much I have. She's not taking it." So we went over her health history. And then I said, and my mom was there. And so I said, "Well, what about her memory loss issues?" And
Mhm.
she said, "Oh, well, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's maybe 2 years ago." And I said, "Well, what did you do for a diagnosis?" And she said, "Well, she just didn't answer some questions that I did right." And I said, "So what did you do to diagnose her with Alzheimer's?" And she said, "Well, that was it." And so by then I had already started researching enough. And I said, "Well, did you do an MRI on her? Did you refer her to a neurologist? What did you do?" And so my mom was chiming in that, this is what happens to people when they get older. And the doctor said, well, no, this is more than what happens when you get older. So my mom agreed to an MRI to prove me wrong.
Okay.
Very independent to begin with before dementia, drove herself to her MRI. And the results, of course, proved that I was right. And then it was probably another year of just trying to get her to see a doctor and get help and a neurologist. And we saw the neurologist and she thought that he was wrong. And, this
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Yes, yes, yes. The self-denial of
Right.
having it. So, yes. And what was your reaction? What was your, when you actually heard, okay, my mom has, dementia. She has Alzheimer's. How did that affect you?
I think it gave me the opportunity to look back at all those things that made me think that she was just being mean to me or not being a good mother. I feel bad because a lot of the things that she was doing, I thought she was selfish about, and my mom's not a selfish person. So I felt bad about that. But I knew at that point in time, I couldn't change the past 2 years or the past 3 years or the damage that dementia had done to us. But I could use that as a marker to go ahead and change our future. So I tried to learn as much about dementia as I can, because honestly, when you walk into this journey, you think it's just going to be memory loss. You don't have any idea. Your memory is not just meeting me for lunch or having Christmas Eve dinner. It's how to actually do something, how you sequence getting ready to go out, how you sequence self-care. And when I mean self-care, I mean hygiene and things like that. My mom traveled a lot, so her thing was packing. She would pack up her house all the time. God bless my stepfather. When we unpacked her car, like we found the remote to the TV, we found the cord to the telephone, we found like the coffee pot to the coffee maker that couldn't be used. It was just all those things that she was packing. And in her mind, she had valid reason to pack them, but it wasn't. It was her brain being broken.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's good that, when you get to the point where you realize, okay, my mom, my dad, my loved one, whomever it is, okay, they actually have dementia, and they're not treating me this way because they're acting mean or something like that. And you come to that realization and start understanding, okay, so it's not me, it's the disease. So you kind of have to adjust yourself,
Right.
In order to be able to deal with that, because I know some of the behaviors can be quite what's the word? It can catch you off guard. You're not prepared. So if your mind isn't straight and focused on really what's happening, you can go left instead of going right through this. How important do you think it was for you to have the power of attorney up front, in the beginning?
I think, well, in the beginning, it obviously didn't work as well for me as I expected it to do. In retrospect, if I had known how the disease progresses, the way the disease progresses for my mom is the same as it's going to progress for everybody else. I somehow felt like if we didn't pay it any attention, it was just going to stay the way it was. But having the power of attorney was key. In the interim, I think it was even before we got the medical diagnosis, or maybe shortly thereafter, we went to the bank and made sure that everything was not just in her name, so I had the ability to use her bank accounts. And when I started to use her bank accounts and she wasn't noticing, then I really knew that there was a problem, so I don't necessarily know I was in denial, but it was like putting the pieces together to know what needed to be done next. Seeing the elder attorney, I mean, even now, still, I don't necessarily know how to manage her money to pay for her care the best way. And it just gets very complicated still.
Yeah, I still think though, um, having that up front, preferably before your loved one gets ill, so they are in their right frame of mind to know that this is what they want to happen. This is what I want you to do. I want you to be the executor of my estate. I want you to be have the power of my attorney. I want you to look over my medical care. Having your loved one be able to tell you that information at the early stage or even before is very paramount, because otherwise, if you have siblings or other family members that want to put their input in, it could cause some difficulty there.
Now, I will say the other day I was stressing or concerned about some decisions I was making for my mom. And one
Mm-hmm.
of my friends looked at me very matter of factly, not walking through dementia. Cause when you're walking through dementia, I don't know, I feel like I'm, got all kinds of different decisions to make. And she looked at me very matter of factly and said, I don't understand why you're worried about this. Your mom gave you this power of attorney when she was in right mind. So she trusted you then. And she knew that you would make the right decision now. And that was such a relief for me, like knowing back in 2008, the first time she ever made power of attorney, she chose to give that to me. And she didn't know what was coming up and what was going to happen to her, but she trusted me enough to do that.
Exactly, and that makes you feel good. You
Yeah.
know, when your parent, okay, I know this person is going to do this for me, so this is who I want to do this, and
Yeah.
when they make those decisions, so that gives you a good feeling, and it gives you a responsibility
Right.
as well. Just to make sure that you're doing everything the way that you think that they would want it done. So that is definitely true. What are some of the so what are the activities that your mom that you have for your mom that she does?
So, well, let's go back a little bit to the beginning. So at the beginning, my mom was still very active, although she didn't have a lot of memory and she had some other issues with her MRI. Her motor skills were still at 96%.
Okay.
So, we did our bucket list and we visited every Disney resort at least once. I took my mom with dementia zip lining over alligators at Gatorland shortly after her dementia. And I can say, probably shamefully, that she climbed up to that first landing area much faster than I did.
I'm sure.
I mean, and we did that with a lot of preparation. A year and a half ago, we took her, she kept saying she wanted to ride horses. And I was like, well, and then I found out that they had horseback riding at Disney. And I thought, well, I haven't heard of anybody dying of horseback riding at Disney. So my stepfather and I took her to horseback riding. And even when we had our helmets on, I looked at him and I said, do you think this is a good idea? And he's like, I don't know. We're going to find out soon. And then again, while she was going to get onto the horse, she went to get on. And at first she hesitated. And then she got right on. And the young girl that was leading her said, did you used to ride horses when you were younger? And I was like, what are you talking about? And my mom said, all the time. I rode like Sugar or whatever the horse's name was. And the girl said, oh, it's muscle memory. She can remember that. And then so her horse was fine. Mine like ran off into the woods into a tree. When it came time for her to get off the horse, I was like, oh, there's like a little bit of a struggle. And I was on the horse, but praise the Lord for people that helped my stepfather get her off. Mm-hmm. And I have a picture of her with her little walker and her hands up like this. Praise God, I got to ride a horse again. And we took her back to the hotel and she went to take a nap. And me and my stepfather were like, wow, we were really good. And then like, we were getting ready to take a nap, but before we could take a nap, she woke up and was like, okay, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
So that was still a year and a half ago. I mean,
wow.
Times have changed now. And so it's just learning what the changes are and how to roll with them and knowing that some days we'll be able to do something and some days we're not going to be able to do something.
That's awesome about the horse, because I was going to ask you, did she ride horses before?
Yeah.
Because I found out, like for my mom, I found out several things about her I didn't have a clue about. I'm the youngest of seven, and my oldest siblings probably knew some things that I didn't.
Hmm.
But, just the things that you learn because of the fact, they go back, their memory just goes back to
Right.
earlier childhood, earlier days. You just learn so much. And
Hmm.
I mean, some of the stories that you do learn from them is like, oh my gosh, was that my mother? Was that my father? Was that, whoever my loved one was? So that's quite interesting. So, and I can
Now
understand
here's
is
something.
that Disney
Something
trip was
else. Yeah. So I'm
awesome.
pretty sure we did our last one in December.
Okay.
Um, but she asked me, she's like, "Can we go to Disney again?" And I was like, "Mom, the last time I took you, you said that this was not a good idea." And she said, "Well, I didn't know what I was talking about." But when I do travel with her, like I bring paper and black magic markers and tape. And
Ooh.
I guess this would be traveling whether you're in a hotel or whether you're going to somebody else's house. And so I label with arrows the direction to the bathroom. If
Oh.
you go this way, this is where the kitchen is going to be. And so, like, she could follow the signs to get to the bathroom. Because every night she would wake up to go to the bathroom and she would follow her way out. I brought like a little safety lock that I could put on the door. And then
Mm-hmm.
I put like her wheelchair in front of it because we use a wheelchair to go long distances, suitcases, coffee table, all that stuff. Here comes my dog down because he knows we're talking about fun things.
That's okay.
Um, um, so I just prepare for that and I know that that's going to happen. I mean, um, one of the other things that I do that was probably just extra preparation is I bring an extra sheet with me
Mm-hmm.
and an extra bed pad
Okay.
and cover the bed with our own sheets. So that way, if she doesn't make it to the bathroom in the middle of the night or she can't find it in the middle of the night, we
Mm.
just pull all that stuff off and put it in a trash bag. So there's never ever any awkward moments.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
that's like was a quick tip.
How was it for her traveling? I mean, did you travel by car, airplane? How was that?
By car.
Okay.
So because we're here in Tampa, so it's only like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes today I took her out for the first time in a long time because it's been so hot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about losing memory, when I had talked about sequencing, I knew that I had to get her in the car again, or else she wasn't going to remember how to get in there. And
Right.
also, I wasn't going to remember how she gets in there. So I was like, okay, we're going out today. And so I went in the morning to pick her up before it got too hot. And I opened the door. And the best thing about my mom is she is comfortable enough to communicate with me. And I don't know if she's communicating with me or if she's talking to herself, but I opened the car door and she looked and she said, now I have to remember how to do this again. And I said, I think we both have to remember how to do this. I think I put your walker here and I think you put your hand there. And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, I think you're right. I said, well, let's try it. And so then she was able to get in and out of the car.
Has she ever like been repetitive, just repeat things over and over? Have you had that?
I
Uh,
think she did that on the phone for just a brief amount of time.
mm-hmm. Okay.
I think I've gone through some of her paperwork. And so, from what I can tell from notes in her planner and like little post it notes, she definitely knew what was happening. And she was definitely a master at covering her issues and her forgetfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's heartbreaking to me. And that's one of the other reasons that I like to do these podcasts is to let people know. I mean, we do them thinking that people that are caring for their loved ones are watching, but maybe somebody who is starting to forget things, maybe somebody who has Alzheimer's or dementia now is watching us. And for those people, I want to say, don't hide this. You can't hide from dementia and Alzheimer's. It's not going to just go away. And your family and friends are still going to love you and care for you. So don't hide it. Let somebody know and let them walk you through it because I feel so bad that my mom walked those 2 or 3 years through it trying to just cover herself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what could we have done to help? There could have been something to help.
Could have been, but you never know, but you just got to be prepared, like I said before, and just once just prepare yourself, and you got to kind of open your mind to the different things that will come up.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what has she had any issues with, eating? I know one thing with my mom, it came to a time where she had difficulty eating, and we had to blend the food real good, and those things. But I've heard something also about a red plate.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me that if you give them food in a red plate, somehow they go to eat because of the red plate. Have you experienced that at all?
Yes, I picked up 2 red plates from the Dollar Tree, and I've used them a couple times. But at her community that she lives in now, they have multicolored plates. So last month, probably, they gave her food on a yellow plate, and it was like a battered piece of fish, which
Mm-hmm.
is basically yellow. And I can't remember something else, but maybe macaroni and cheese, but yellow. So it was the same color as the plate. And I was like, she's not eating this because of it blends in with the plate, because my mother definitely has eye issues. So I went and I asked them to put it on a different color plate, and I brought it back, and she was like, this looks much better. This food is much better. And I think, wouldn't it look better if you could see it? And so today we went out for a lunch at a restaurant, and I actually brought my 2 red plates with us in the car. And so when we got into the restaurant, I was more focused on getting my mom out of the car and into the restaurant. And then I was like, wait, the red plates. So I leaned over the counter and I said, look, my mom has a condition where she can't really see. Red plates are supposed to help her. Can you put our food on a red plate? And they served white plates, and she got grilled shrimp. So grilled shrimp on a white plate would have just been blended right in there. So they were like, yeah, we didn't know that. And so they served her food on red plates, and the girl put it down, and my mother looked at her red plate and her food and said, oh, I know where I am now. This looks really good, and just started eating. So I don't know if it was the red plate that made her feel like she was at home or where it was, but she ate that food.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about, or has she has any issues with taking her medication at all?
I feel like I should knock on wood, even though I don't necessarily believe in that stuff. She doesn't take a lot of medication. She's diabetic, so she takes medication in the morning and the evening for that, and then another dose of medication at bedtime. And with the staff in her community that she's in now, it's a facility with only 20 people. So it's basically the same number of people. There's not any empty beds, so there's not somebody new coming in, but she feels comfortable with the caregivers taking her medicine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good. What about, do they have to come up with any ideas of how to get her to shower, or is she not at that stage yet?
So there were some issues with showering, and then there was one girl that could shower her without any problem. And then that girl switched to the overnight shift. But now another girl can shower her without any problem. And I honestly believe it's all in their approach, and how you approach it.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because I can remember, like with my mom. So my mom, she stayed at my brother's house for some years, and we all took care of her there. So we had some shifts, and we all had our turns to go take care of her. And I know with her, sometimes it depended on who the child was,
Mm-hmm.
How she would react. I know because I lived here in Florida, and she lived up in the, DC, Virginia, Maryland area. She didn't see me that often, so in the beginning, I was just loving it. because she would do everything I asked. But,
Mhm.
as I stayed up there longer and came up more often, things began to change. But I do agree, it is, with the approach. It's the approach and it's the person too. Because I can
Yeah.
tell you, my brothers could come in there and talk to her and, whatever she needs, she would be just as sweet. But you let those girls come in there, it's like,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
away from me, get away from me. And then we had, the nurses come in and the lady come in to, give her the bath when she was not able to get up and go to the shower. Um, she was very feisty, but yet the caregiver was very gentle, and they talked to her back. I think it's
Mhm.
very important that you have dialogue,
Right.
and instead of, oh, instead of saying, let's go do this, let's go do this, you know, talk them through it. Hey, I'm going to get ready to wash your arm. So I'm going to move your hand over here and, and rub it down. And then I'm going to move the other one. It depends on the person and the people that's dealing with it. So that's absolutely true. But on another note, I know you are doing some other things out in the community
Mhm.
to bring some awareness to dementia. You want to talk about those things?
Sure. As we started this journey, people would continually refer me to Teepa Snow to watch her videos and learn how to interact with my mom. So she has a model, I guess, called Positive Approach to Care. And it's just like what you were talking about. It's all about approaching people and interacting and treating them like people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also seeing what's the best left in them, not seeing like what they can't do. So um as we progress through this different stages and changing communities with her, at one point in time I was at my wit's end and I was like, okay, let me find a Teepa Snow person that I can interact with, because I had seen her advertising for these people. Well, I couldn't find one in Tampa. You mean there's nobody in Tampa? We're a very large area, and Florida has the second largest amount of Alzheimer's in the US. So I ended up going to school with Teepa Snow and becoming a Positive Approach to Care independent coach. So it's just kind of sharing the skills and knowledge that I learned with her first. Um, and then in her area where her community is New Tampa. So I tried some other support groups around, and she had a support group at her last facility. And so we didn't have a support group in her facility in New Tampa, and they didn't necessarily have space for it. So I started right now it's a once a month support group. I feel like we could definitely use twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
So the first Thursday of every month in the morning, we meet at the library in New Tampa. And we are focused mostly on the caregiver. A lot of the support groups I went to focused on behavior management.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll share a skill from Teepa Snow, like that I've learned in our support group, but I also try to focus on the caregivers and what they need and how they can support each other.
And where in Tampa is that?
At the New Tampa Regional Library on Cross Creek Boulevard on the first Thursday of the month at 10:30 in the morning.
Okay.
I'm hoping to maybe have one in Temple Terrace soon too.
Okay. Okay. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
For Teepa Snow, is it TEEPA?
Yep.
And SNOW?
Yes.
Okay.
Now she'll be coming to Sun City Center in November.
Okay.
And so she'll be there Thursday, November 9th. Senior Helpers sponsors that to go. So caregivers can go. So if anybody that's watching us also watches Teepa Snow and is in the area or wants to learn about her, they can go to that on Thursday, November 9th at 9 a.m. at the Kings Point Veterans Theater.
Awesome. Kings Point.
And that's free. I was looking for it. I didn't realize that in some places they charge for that. Like somebody was charging some good money to see her, but thanks to Senior Helpers, it's free.
Awesome. That is awesome. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to make my way out there in November if I'm in town. I think that's awesome. There's so many support groups. There's so many outlets and people that are trying to get the knowledge and information out about dementia and Alzheimer's. And if we could all just kind of like join together and put all of our
Mhm.
information out there so we'll all know what's going on, so we can all share it at the same time, that would be absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So now, are you the only child?
I have a brother that lives in Massachusetts. He probably hasn't been here for a little bit more than a year. My brother's not necessarily good with medical issues per se. I was telling somebody a couple weeks ago, I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't have my Fisher Price doctor kit because my brother didn't like the Band-Aids when I was little. So dementia is a whole different ball game for him. So I don't push that much. I'll send him pictures. He'll send us pictures back. We'll text back and forth. One time I used Alexa to call him with my mom, and I left, and I guess she just walked out of the room while he was still on there talking to her. So that doesn't work very well either. But then one time I called her and she talked to him for more than an hour and a half because it's true. The mothers love the sons better. Just a true fact.
I have no comment. I have no comment on that. I'm not going down that road. But that's I can understand some family members say that it's best to let the ladies handle it. So that's what we do sometimes. But how do you de-stress yourself? I know your mom is an assistant in a facility, right? But still, I know there's things that you have to do. You go see her, you make sure whatever's done right, etc. How do you distress? How do you get your mental state of mind together?
Well, I'd like to tell you that I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and that's the intention, but that doesn't necessarily happen. I do have my support dog that has now decided that she's going to sit next to me the whole time we're doing this, but she's quiet, so that's good. I spend time with friends. I go to church. I do Bible study. I mean, that's really like one of the key pieces to this. While I'm doing this, I feel like I'm doing an awful lot of work and helping educate people about dementia. And I spend like 4 or 5 hours a day with my mom. But that was the alternative for me to do that than pay an outside caregiver, like somebody that doesn't know her and isn't trained. And I like my mom. We have fun. I just actually got a very part-time job working at Raymond James Stadium. Okay. And so I work during the Buccaneers game. So I'm working and I'm making a little bit money. And let me tell you, during that time period, even though I'm working and I'm on my feet the whole time, it's not stressful. Like, it totally takes my mind off of it. And I was like, isn't this kind of a surprising thing? And just really spending time with friends. Some of my best friends now are friends that I've made because their moms are in the communities with my mom. And I think that kind of gives you a buffer because we know that if we make plans together on Thursday night, but something goes wrong with mom in the afternoon and we mentally can't handle going out to dinner, then we're just like, hey, look, I can't do this, and you kind of just have a mutual understanding and appreciation for the stress of it all.
Yeah. And it's good that you have that community too, because, going through it alone, I can't imagine having to, deal with something like this alone with no one. So you definitely have to get a support group. If you don't have siblings, if you don't have, friends or a church that you're part of, with people that you can talk to, definitely join some support groups. And sometimes I know there's a group out there, I don't know, where people just vent,
Right.
They just vent, I can't take it anymore. And, what do I need to do? And things like that. You need to do that. You need to have that release.
And I
Definitely.
think it's important to find the right support group for you. I was in an online support group the other day, and somebody asked how we handled the emotions of visiting our loved one in a memory care unit.
Mm.
And somebody said, just don't go visit him.
Oh, that's not good.
And I was like, that's not really what that person asked. She was asking how we managed it. She was looking for helpful hints, not just don't go visit. And I mean, I see those residents who don't necessarily have family come visit. And, there are people there that kind of make up for that. And not everybody has the ability to do what I do in regards to visiting my mom. But, if somebody's watching, I would say don't give up on visiting your loved one. There's many different ways, even if you just sit with your loved one. I mean, my mom loves to poke around her room. And sometimes I can just sit on her love seat with my laptop out and I'm doing work and we're in the same room together. And sometimes I'm thinking, does she even remember I'm here? But then she'll talk to me, she just likes having me in her room. And if you think about it, before dementia, she wasn't ever in a house by herself, and so she just we all kind of like the time of somebody else being with us, even if it's not talking.
Yes, and that's true. I think sometimes, when people, when you have a loved one that has dementia, sometimes some people, just leave them in the bed or by themselves in a room alone, and I believe that takes a toll on them as well, because you still need that connectivity. You still need that love or whatever, even though they may not respond to you at that time. They may not respond to you the way that you want them to respond to you, but you still have that interaction and they still know that you're there. So I think that's very important. I know my siblings, they would, when my mom at one time she was in a nursing home at one time, and they would go every single day. They went every single day to give her, make sure she had a shower. Of course, it was a fight, to give her shower, but they did it. They made sure she had the nurses or whoever they are. They give them the medicine and all of that stuff. They made sure that she was fine. And that was like an everyday journey. And you're right, everybody can't do that. But those that can, you're making such a significant imprint there with your parent. And, those are things that you'll always remember. Always remember. I can just, one time I know I was trying to get my mom, she had to go to the restroom and she wanted me to take her. So this is when she was walking and mobile. I was taking her to the restroom and we got right to the door. Next thing I know, that finger of hers, she had this little crooked fingernail. It went into my side, and I know she was just trying to dig my kidney out of my side. I asked her, I said, why are you trying to dig it out? Can I keep it? She said, no. I said, you know what? You got it. I'm finished. I'm done. You win. You don't have to go. If you don't have to go, I'm good with it. But those are the different types of things that you remember and you go back and you can laugh on, and smile upon. So, if you do have a parent that's, in a home or a facility or whatever, please, 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 please go visit them. I know it may be hard. Some family members feel as if, oh, I can't see my loved one like that. I don't want to remember her like that or remember him like that. Please go and visit your loved one. It's something that you'll always remember, and it will make a difference with you and yourself as well. So, but I know our time is almost coming to a close. So what I want to ask you, if you had which you do have the opportunity right now, could give some caregivers some good recommendations, some good suggestions, thoughts, what would you tell them?
One of the most important things I've learned from Teepa Snow that she said in the very beginning that's always stuck with me is be curious. So if something's happening with your loved one, don't just say, oh, it's her dementia. Maybe it's something else. Be curious and find out what is causing whatever it is. And, I have multiple examples, but of course I can't remember any of them at this point in time. And then some of the other things is we had already talked about the approach, like stop for 6 feet away and say hi to them. We always say, just put your one hand up, because that way that it makes them look at your face. And when you say hi to them, and if you don't keep talking to them, they will greet you and you'll be able to kind of see where they're at, and then it also gives you the opportunity to put your hand out, because if you put your hand out to them, it's automatic response almost for somebody to take your hand back. And then that builds you a connection. I wish I could share more about the being curious, but actually, when I'm curious and I don't overtalk with my mom, sometimes I learn things about her that I wouldn't know. And then the other thing, I'm looking at a stack of photo albums, because back in the day, if you're young watching this and you don't know, we printed pictures out and we put them in a photo album.
We did.
So somebody told me, and my mom has like 30 or 40 photo albums. And during the hurricane last year, I told my stepfather, get the photo albums out of the closet. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's a bunch of them. And he was like, oh my gosh, that took me forever. But somebody suggested that I go through the photo albums now. So I started going through the photo albums now. And of course, it helps to see where my mom is at, but she's at a stage where we can look at the pictures and go through them and have moments, and she can share and tell me stories that make her very happy and make me very happy and let me learn the history. It's better than flipping through a photo album and saying what happened there, and I don't know the story. And sometimes she'll be like, I have no idea who that person is. And I'm like, good, I can throw that picture away. And then sometimes there's a story.
Yep. And that's good, just learning all of the history. I'm one of those, I'm like the family historian. And, with my grandparents and great grandparents, there are things I would never know being the youngest. And just out of the blue, out of just a conversation, she'll say, yeah, I did that. We used to do this and that. And I'm sitting up just saying, oh, really? And the thing of it is, it's like, you don't cut them off too much. You got to let them talk, let them get it out. And you would just learn so much. And I would also add to some of your suggestions is that, do the things that your loved one likes to do. For instance, if they like to listen to music, turn the music on, let the music play. Yes. if they like to, be read to, if they like reading, read to them. They may not say anything. They may lay there with their eyes closed, but they are hearing it. So continue to do the things that they like to do. And when it comes to sometimes when they don't want to do something, it's like, I know one thing with my mom with taking a shower, she would always say, I already took a shower, I already took a bath. You can't sit there and tell her, no, you did not, right? It was more, okay, well, you know what, Mom, I'm going to church. Do you want to go with me to church? Yeah. She said, yeah, I want to go with you to church. I said, okay, well, we got to go take a shower, and we're going to get dressed, and then we go to church. That was like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
She was moving because that was something that connected with her very well. So, I know a lot of people when they, go to the online sites and they say, how do I get them to do this? How do I get them to do that? Just think about the things that they like.
Right.
That they like. Because they still like them. You may not know it.
Right. Yes.
Some of those.
Think about who they were before and still try to interact with them that way. My mom went through a few hospital stays for a period, and praise the Lord, we have not had one of those since we moved her. But after the hospital, I was like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And then finally I had to stop myself and be like, okay, think of her as your mom. She's not your patient. Be her mom, and don't be so focused on the dementia that you forget the person.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I would think
So,
when you're focused only on the dementia, for me, it's just exhausting. But when I see my mom as the person that she is, it's so much better. And I just feel called to say this. She has, I made shirts that say chicka chicka boom boom because, like, as the disease progresses, you keep your chit chat stuff going and rhythm. So chicka chicka boom boom, she's picked up at some point in time, and it's stored in the same section as the bad words. So as long as you have chicka chicka boom boom, you know, like, things are going well. And it's, we call it in Positive Approach to Care, we call it a positive action starter. So I mean, I've
mhm.
trained the staff, like, if you want her to do something, you got to chicka chicka boom boom her, and then she'll start saying it and start walking with you like chicka chicka boom boom, and then she'll stop and shake her butt a little bit. But we just have fun. Like, you're still allowed to have fun even if your loved one has dementia.
Exactly. And that's the most important
Mm-hmm.
thing. They're still your loved
Yeah.
one. They're still there. It's just a little
Mm-hmm.
different. So, yes. CherylAnn, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and share your stories and your knowledge. I'm hoping that some people in the Tampa area will definitely come out to your support group and come out to see Teepa Snow and all of those things. That would absolutely be
Yeah.
wonderful. So thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
we hope that you will come back to us pretty soon. And hopefully you and I will meet up
Yeah,
pretty soon.
yeah.
And just have a one-on-one, some tea and something to go along with that.
I
So
brought my
thank
tea
you.
tonight for you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you
Thank
again.
you. Have a good night.
You too. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed CherylAnn, and I do look forward to meeting her in person and talking with her. She gave some wonderful suggestions and some wonderful ideas. If you are interested in being a guest on this show, please reach out to me at DementiaDiariesPodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to my Facebook page at DementiaDiaries:ACJ. And if you want to share your story, if you're caring for someone now, or if you have cared for someone in the past, please reach out. Please share your story, because you can help someone else as they are going through taking care of their loved one as well. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good evening.